met for many years.
8 years. Next November.
A film that expresses so much love, action, drama, and excitement, and all of it taking place in the golden 20s, was perfectly captured by no other than well-known novel, The Great Gatsby, making all of it come to life in their 1974 film, and it was great. But nothing better than how it was executed in their most recent remake in 2013, with the urban soundtrack, the modernized scenery and props.
You see, I'm Gatsby.
And how can we forget that outstanding Great Gatsby character, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who made you just love everything about him, but nothing expressed the wild trip we took through their lives better than the bright colors, who Baz Luhrmann, director of the film, was not afraid to use, or in any of his other films as well. The colors were boldly shown, and I'm sure that was no mistake either. Colors are mainly put into films to represent different meanings that they want to help tell a story without actually verbally saying it, such as that green light at the end of Daisy's dock that Gatsby would stare at to represent the hope of being with her again one day.
On the old, unknown world, I thought of Gatsby's wonder when he first picked out the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. He had come such a long way, and his dream must have seemed so close that he could hardly fail to grasp it.
The only question is, as a director of the film, how do you do this successfully without making it confusing? Well, this is something Baz Luhrmann seems to do successfully and also do it unconsciously and not have us question why as much. The color scheme Luhrmann picks to represent each character's home also relates to their character's personality. In the book, The Great Gatsby, Gatsby was known for his lavish, fancy, epic parties that everyone hoped to be invited to. In the film, the way these scenes are shown represents the lifestyle that Gatsby now lives as new money. This was represented as the West Egg and East Egg, where the West Egg represents the people who hasn't always had money, and the East Egg is with the people who was born into a lot of money. Now back to Gatsby's lavish home. During each party scene, there is a clear complementary color scheme because of the pops of orange and yellows, along with the cyans and blues. The overall scenes are filled with black and white, but he decides to add those pops of colors to describe the style of Gatsby. And how could we forget that bright gold car Gatsby rides through the town in when he was with Nick explaining his life and where he came from? A clear symbolic object that helps him stand out from anyone else. His styles are something totally different from Daisy, who was his love interest in the movie. Daisy in the book was described as undecided and confused about a lot of things pertaining to Gatsby, but also dominated by males because of the way her husband Tom treats her, making her soft-spoken. The way her home is shown in the film is an analogous color scheme, where all the colors are side by side on the color chart. Her home is filled with all these flowers that help makes everything around them more calming and soothing. The walls are green, along with the blue painting in the background, adding those yellowish flowers. They are all next to each other in the color wheel, and by far my favorite color scheme used. It adds that togetherness to her home, making you believe that she was put together, when really, she wasn't. And I bet you didn't even notice when Gatsby showed up to her home to meet her for the first time in a long time. He is still stuck in his own personal color scheme with the way he is dressed. There goes that orange and blue color scheme shown in his shirt and tie, making him still distinctive no matter where he goes in the film. Or I guess he just never got the message letting him know what colors to wear, because I mean, even Nick stayed true to the colors and wore his bright green sweater and even a red bow tie to kind of relate to both Daisy and Gatsby. Anywho, I think the boldest choice goes to the character Myrtle herself, and not just her home, but personality as well. She was described in the book as tacky, and I think the director did a good job showing this through colors they chose. Myrtle was known as Tom's mistress, who came from no money and was married to George, who owned a rundown garage in the Valley of Ashes. Before we get into her home, let's talk about the way they chose to make her stand out wherever she goes. In this clip, if you notice the background, the Valley of Ashes looks very washed out and dull. Nothing pops out, and it just looks a very lifeless and unpleasant place to be in. Even when they show her husband George, he looks the same way. Dark grays, tans, and don't seem to give him any personality at all. But yet, Myrtle gets into the scene and she is full of color and life. That makes her pop out from all of the sad, dull background. Going inside of her home, it gives you that tacky feel and just overall makes you wonder, why did she pick these colors to decorate her home in the first place? The color scheme she has used as well is a complementary because of all the reds and greens. I took the red color as a way to represent her lust she has for Tom. You can clearly see the sexual tension they have with one another and why they have to cover their relationship. In a way, I see it as Myrtle Home trying to make it look as though she has money, but really it was an epic fail to prove. But who cares, because I'm sure we all can agree that she has this personality of doing whatever she wants with no shame. And poor Nick, I'm sure meeting her for the first time, this was a lot and just too much for him to handle.
That night in the hidden flat that Tom kept for Myrtle, we were buoyed by a sort of chemical madness, a willingness of the heart that burst thunderously upon us all.
As a whole, Lerman was able to express meaning by just throwing in splashes of color here and there. So I challenge all you other directors out there to take a chance to be creative, with more than just the acting to help us understand something, but use those subliminal messages as well too. And why not throw in Leonardo DiCaprio in there as well? He's an amazing actor, but yet still hasn't won a Grammy. Don't worry, Leonardo, we still love you.